Hey, how's it going everybody? It's your boy. Now guess what? The British Army is in trouble, or rather, one particular person in the British Army is in trouble. Now, what has happened is a army instructor, a corporal, was basically doing basic training with his troops. Now, there was one particular recruit, well she's not even the squad, yes, it is a woman, happened to not be having a good time, not doing very well. Now, if those of you who are in the army, or have experience, say in the cadets, or maybe the territorial army, or even foreign armies, it doesn't really matter, as long as you are in an army. I think US forces especially would probably be familiar with this. Drill instructors, or corporals, or sergeants, or whoever it is that's training the recruits, tend to be quite mean. Yes, mean. That's how they break people down, give them discipline, and turn them into killers. They have to be strict, they have to be nasty, they have to be brutal in order to turn them into effective fighting units, otherwise they're not going to survive any battles. Now, I will touch upon those things later when I read another article about this situation from an actual soldier, an elite soldier, ex-elite, SAS if you want to know, but that's all I'm going to say for now. Now, this instructor ended up in the news because this happened. Betrayed by her own corporal, foul-mouthed army instructor faces court-martial after his video of female recruit being reduced to tears is viewed 250,000 times. Now, those of you will be kind of flabbergasted if you have any experience with the army or know a little bit about the army. Court-martialed for doing his job? Well, let's read on for now. An army instructor is facing a court-martial after he filmed a female recruit and reduced her to tears in a shocking video that has been watched more than 250,000 times online. Last night, furious top brass were trying to track down the corporal, who may be booted out of the army after using a phone to record the moment he subjected the distraught trainee to a torrent of verbal abuse during a bayonet exercise. Defense sources said the instructor should not have filmed the recruit during her training with or without her consent. So let's take a look at that video, shall we?
Get the f*** here! Hurry up! Who is that? Who are you? Who are you? Why are you here? To kill who? Get the here now! Get the here! Get here! Get down! Get down! Get down, Sickity! Sit me! Why are you at my room? Why are you here to kill who? Are you a killer or a mouse? Killer! Are you a killer? Show me your war face! That's not a war face! Show me your war face! Why have you got a pierce in your tongue? Why the f*** have you got a pierce in your tongue? You are not a killer. Get the f*** here now. Get here! Get the f*** here! Why can you smell it in me around here? Why can you smell it in me? What the f*** is that there? Oh my God! Kill it! Kill that position! Take it! Kill! Kill! Kill it, man! Where's your aggression? You are you are not a killer! You are not a killer! On guard! On guard! I put to bayonet. Right, let's get it back in the river now. Let's get in that river. You are weak. You are weak. Get down. Get down. Hey, get here. Get down. Stand up. Hey, yeah, sit. That's it. You done it. You done it. Yeah? You're crying. What are you crying for? Because you done it. Have you? Get back down now. Get back down. Get back down. You are nowhere near the end. Get through there now. Get through.
Pretty brutal, wouldn't you say? But then again, men go through 10 times worse, have gone through 10 times worse. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've heard war stories from loads of different people that back in the day, and I'm talking not very long in the past, as well as in the 1900s, 1940s, 50s, you name it, they would use physical violence against men in order to toughen them up and turn them into killers. What he's doing there is, it's not nice, but that's what they do to everybody. What she is going through is what loads of men and women have gone through in the British Army and other armies around the world. Now, the one thing that he's being punished for is the filming. That's really what it boils down to, although the virtue signalling around the shit he says is just nauseating. Let's see. She's named in the footage, which has been shared and liked thousands of times over the past 3 days. The instructor's behaviour was described as totally unacceptable by Lord Dannatt, the former head of the army. The disturbing footage is particularly embarrassing for defence chiefs as it comes just weeks after an advertising campaign aimed at prospective female recruits, which said they were welcome to get emotional or even cry. Yes, because that's totally going to make the army a very effective fighting force where we allow feelings into it. I'm sorry, we're supposed to be training killers, people who are going to defend our country and defend our, well, what is left of our rights. Anyway, we're going to go into dangerous situations like Afghanistan, Iraq, potential fire zones like Syria or Mali or anywhere we need to be in the world, which is in line with our national interests. We need these people to be ready to not only kill but to defend themselves and to survive, hopefully. How the hell can we allow people to get emotional or cry? I can't believe that was their marketing ploy to get more women. No, what you need are men and women who are tough. We're looking for tough women. We're looking for tough men, not crybabies like her. I'm sorry, but she is not a soldier. He's right. What he says in that video, no matter how brutal or unfair or nasty it is, he's got a point. Look how she attacked the bayonet, or rather the straw man. Terrible. I mean, she probably was tired. She's probably fresh. She probably isn't fit enough. But that's all on her. And he's right. But the instructor's video, which appeared on the Force's Bible page on Facebook, suggests otherwise, as it appears to show the instructor punishing the recruit after she bursts into tears. He even appears to feign sympathy and hoodwink her into thinking she has completed the exercise successfully. She cries uncontrollably and is reduced to a quivering wreck, before the instructor launches another verbal attack. Well, yeah, that's what they do. If anybody has seen Bad Lads Army or Lads Army on, I think it was ITV back in the day, yeah, that's what they do, and they still do it to this very day. But the problem is, the army likes to lie about what it's actually like. I've noticed this. Now, this is an anecdotal thing, but when I was in high school, we actually had a member of the armed forces come over to talk to us about it being a potential career. And I asked him, is basic training as bad as it appears on Bad Lads Army? And he said no. And funnily enough, 10 years later, probably more, this happens. This stupid ad campaign where they're saying it's okay to be emotional and cry, ladies. Well, apparently not, because it is like that. It will always be like that. We need this kind of training regime to build effective soldiers. And I can't believe Lord Danner is virtue signaling about this. Again, because he wants more women in the forces, even though what we really need is just good soldiers. Fuck quotas and fuck trying to get certain people into the army. We need people who can fight. And scientifically, as we've seen throughout the years and recently, women aren't good at it compared to men. Physically and possibly, I don't know, possibly even mentally, they can't handle it. Look at her, she's a prime example. And that's why a lot of armies around the world are having to reduce the standards in order to get more women in. Last night, the Mail on Sunday showed the video to Lord Danner. His response was withering. I hope the identity of the corporal is discovered very quickly and that he is removed from the army at the earliest possible moment. Tomorrow would be a day too late. This kind of behaviour is totally unacceptable. Every army recruit is taught to use a bayonet, a sharp knife, which can be attached to a rifle as part of basic training. I'm sorry, but Lord Danner, have you trained recruits? I assume you must have. Otherwise, you wouldn't have become head of the army and you wouldn't be where you are today. In fact, I'm pretty sure you must have went through that kind of training. So why are you against it? I personally think he's just trying to put on a good face for the army, and I think this whole removing from the army thing is retarded. Look, I don't think filming her requires removing him from the army. He hasn't done anything that can be considered like that. I don't think he deserves a dishonourable discharge for filming somebody and doing his job. I think personally he should be demoted, back to private, and sent somewhere else. Somewhere bad. I don't know. Whatever they do, this man should not be instructing. I don't think he should be removed from the army. He's not doing anything that is that bad. Again, this is virtue signaling from Lord Danner, which shows how far behind our army now is compared to the glory days. I can't believe we actually have these people in our armed forces. But hey, I can't judge. I'm just a civilian. Recruits are expected to show aggression and thrust their bayonets repeatedly into mock enemy targets. There are about 7,000 women serving as regular full-time soldiers. Controversially, women are also expected to start training later this year to join infantry regiments. Critics say it could cost lives on the battlefield because women are not suited to roles which require them to kill the enemy at close quarters. And this is true. It is true. That's not to say all women can't do it, only in general they cannot because they do not have the upper body strength. Now, Justin Carter's made videos about his time in the US Army. Now, he did meet women who could do it, but they're the exception to the rule. I'm all for women joining the army, but I only expect the finest recruits to go out into the front line and fight. And even then, they might not be as good physically. I mean, it doesn't matter how good they are as shots, but physically, if they have to get into hand-to-hand combat, they might not be as good as their enemy male counterparts. After wading through a stream, the exhausted recruit is seen standing in the front of the instructor, who tells her repeatedly that she is fucking weak. She is marched towards a pile of sandbags which represent an enemy soldier and stabs them, but the unimpressed instructor dismisses her efforts. Tory MP Johnny Mercer, who as an army officer fought the Taliban at close quarters in Afghanistan, said bayonet training had to be brutal, but he criticised the instructor's decision to record the exercise. He said, "I used to run commando training, and it was a deep privilege to go with people to their darkest places and realise what their characters were actually made of. I would never think about filming it and putting it online though, which is a deep breach of trust and respect for that individual." And again, I agree. That is the big thing about this. He filmed it. He should never be filming that. Nobody should be filming that. It should be a private thing. It should be about trust. And regardless, and I agree with the critics of this instructor, regardless of whether or not she wanted him to or not, he should not be doing it. He is a teacher. He is in a position of authority. He has responsibility, regardless of whether or not he has to treat her like shit in order to turn her into a potential soldier. I'm sorry, he still has responsibility for her welfare, and also he has his own responsibilities in regards to conduct. It's true. Earlier this year, the army launched its latest recruitment campaign, focusing exclusively on women and ethnic minorities. They don't even need to get ethnic minorities into the army with campaigns geared towards them. They'll join regardless. They just will. Using the slogan, "This is belonging," potential soldiers were told that the army was now a touchy-feely environment where they could express themselves and show weakness. The series of animated TV adverts were criticised for being too politically correct. It is unclear who edited the instructor's footage and posted it online. In an apparent bid to mock the recent adverts, "This is belonging" appears at the end of the film. An army spokesman said the footage was being investigated. So it appears it was a leak, and it seems that this was put on to show what the army is actually like as a wake-up call to people. But again, the army will do anything to make themselves look nice for potential recruits. But the thing is, why can't they just be open? I mean, I have seen SAS recruitment adverts. They show how brutal it is. You have to get through the most obscenely hard obstacles. I guess that was 10 years ago when things were different, but again, they should not be showing that the armies are now a touchy-feely environment where they can express themselves. That's not the army. That is not what an army should be. I mean, I guess to some extent, you know, armies do have extracurricular activities, but when you're in basic training, that is not the environment you should be in. But anyway, let's go to an actual expert. Ex-SAS Sergeant Andy McNabb, now famed thriller author. "You might not like how we train army recruits, but they need to be tough or they'll die." An army instructor is facing a court-martial after a video of him shouting abuse at a young female recruit has gone viral. He's in trouble because of having filmed the scene without the recruit's consent. But what seems to have shocked most of the 300,000+ viewers of the clip is his language. "Are you a fucking killer or a mouse?" he shouts. "What are you crying for? Show me your war face." Lord Dannett, the former head of the army, has described the corporal's behaviour as totally unacceptable. Filming the tirade was out of line, but what he says, "Sorry, but I've heard far worse than that in my time. I've dished it out too, but now as a corporal training young recruits myself." When you're teaching young men and women to become soldiers, you're taking people from the real world and putting them into another world. We're not forming a knitting circle. The job spec of a soldier is to destroy the enemy in close combat. What it boils down to is getting a young 20-something to be able to put a rifle butt into their shoulder or fix a bayonet to kill another human being, and to be able to survive that, not just at the time but later on, in their 30s and 40s, when they're married with children. If you don't train them to have the mental and physical ability to carry out that task, they're going to die and we're going to lose. Yes, there are people's rights and the politically correct atmosphere we all live in now, but in the army, this is what we do. And this is how we do it. Is there anything to disagree with there? I can't think of anything. I can't. That is true. That is what we need in the army. This is what the army needs to be. It needs to be tough. It needs to be as politically incorrect as possible in order to create killers, to create people capable of defending our country. I don't see how people like Lord Dannett and the people casting judgment on the army and that instructor, apart from, you know, correctly pointing out he should not be filming it, as beneficial to the army. I don't see how these adverts are beneficial. I don't see how the army lying to people about what it's actually like is beneficial. In the real world, we might find that unsavoury, but that's what's needed for success. You can't put real life expectations of employment into a contract where you have no liability. You're signing up with the possibility that in doing your job, you might get killed. And when things kick off and people are in the fight, they're expected to be a lot more brutal than what you see in that video. Part of the Army's duty of care is to produce soldiers who not only look presentable and can march, but who, when they've been in the field for 3 weeks and they're scared and their mate's just been killed and they're scared they're going to get killed too, will still, when their commander shouts, "Fix bayonets," do it. Not only to do their job, but to keep themselves alive. If you haven't got that sort of product at the end of 28 weeks basic training, you haven't got an army. So the Army's duty of care is not just for moral reasons, but for tactical and financial reasons too. It's expensive to train soldiers. Ultimately, we want them to be around for at least 12 years so we get our money's worth. And there seems to me to be a sharp decline in the amount of people joining the army, as well as a sharp increase in people leaving it. And this is what he shows here. I don't know if that was just what the Telegraph wanted to put in after the fact. He doesn't seem to be even mentioning it, but it is kind of interesting that the army is not doing very well, and neither is the navy. Our armed forces are a joke at the moment. It's all thanks to this current government. Even Tony Blair and Gordon Brown had it in a better state. I mean, just look, as soon as they left office, and I'm not trying to be biased in any way, it goes to shit. It goes to shit. Even that slight rise was nowhere near as much as 2009 to 10. And it's not just the government's fault, it's also the army's fault. They're not doing good enough either to keep people, as well as to increase the amount of recruits coming in to replace them. The system is actually pretty good, MITCH continues. Within the NATO standards of training, we rate extremely well. We produce really good soldiers because of that duty of care. And this is not about men versus women. Women have always been part of the order of battle. Well, no, they haven't. I think he needs to realise that they've not been part of the order of battle. In World War I, they weren't. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was one person in Serbia who was British and joined their army, but she didn't join our army. And that was only because she needed to get food. And they were obviously needing troops because they just got conquered by the Austro-Hungarians. But regardless, that's not true, but I think he's just trying to make a fair point. The military recruits from society, and as long as someone can do the job, who cares what gender they are? Not me. And I agree, I don't care what gender they are. I understand the differences between the two, but if a woman can do it, I don't care. If she can shoot a gun, if she can kill a man in close, or a woman in close combat, she's the one for me, basically. I don't care. And it's the same with a man. If he can't do his job, I don't want him anywhere near the army. The military is constantly evolving. The army is overhauling physical training at the moment, using new sports science techniques to reduce injuries from hell for leather training, where new recruits are physically thrashed in the early days. We're preparing recruits for more specific physical demands in the field. We're bringing in different body armour, which is lighter and less bulky. Recruits aren't as fit as they once were, but the army can't moan about it. They've got to work out how to get them from there to here. And when these young recruits join their units, they'll still be tabbing, running with weight, because that's what you do in the army. It's critical to advance to battle. We can tweak the kit, but you've still got to be able to do the job. And it's the same when it comes to basic training. Yes, this video shows someone who's clearly not great at instructing and who quite rightly is likely to be hauled up for videoing without permission, but a bit of shouting, that's how we do it. At the end of the day, we're a volunteer army. If you don't like it, you can leave. But the army has a saying that has been learnt the hard way. Train hard, fight easy. Train easy, fight hard and die. To think men and women don't or shouldn't be affected by this stuff is wrong. But if they do, maybe they need to be looking at doing another job. And I agree. I can't think of anything here that is in any way wrong, other than one point being that women have always been part of the order of battle, which they haven't. And I think it's pretty clear that this woman, who is part of the British Army, or trying to become part of the British Army, is not up to snuff. You should not be a quivering wreck. You should be able to do the training. I think it's pretty clear she's not built for it. And there are other women who are, and those are the ones who are going to succeed. I do not think that this instructor had the right to film her. I think that was degrading. I think that was humiliating. I know that's his job to do that, but come on, that goes beyond just basic training humiliation. But then again, the whole situation around that is interesting. Why was it filmed other than maybe to humiliate her? How was it leaked? And I still don't think that, you know, pussyfying the army is going to in any way make it better. It's not going to make it worse. Pussyfied armies lose battles, they lose wars. And if we're going to have an army like that in the future, fuck. I don't want anything to do with it. Anyway, what are your thoughts, guys? Am I right? Is Andy McNabb right? Is the Lord Dannet right? Is this woman right? I personally side with McNabb on this. I personally think that this is what is required to train recruits. I don't think filming, as McNabb said, should be allowed, and this guy should be punished, though I don't think he should leave the army. I don't think this is dishonourable discharge worthy, unless I'm wrong. I'm sure some vets can tell me in the comments, but anyway, until next time, it's been your boy. Like, share the video, subscribe if you want to, and until next time, I'll see you later.